Common sense is probably the first piece of questing, to go after something. The answers to people have asked from the very beginning. Why I am here, what the quest for fire, the quest for protection, the quest for food, is to go forth and get something, to understand something so you can repeat it. That's always the empirical sciences. When they have a principle, they say, well, can it be done by someone who's not educated? You see, if it is, then it remains a principle. See, if they have to be educated, only certain people can use it, then it can't be a principle.
Right. Sure.
So we're going to look at life, what we see around us. No matter if we went back to that first movie we saw, Quest of Fire, they were looking how to survive. What they were interested in, besides eating, was to protect themselves from the outer elements which they did not understand. And they were technically observers. And we're going to go someplace, because I reminded you that science had this big ring where they're smashing atoms together to see what was behind it. They're doing it through science. What's behind this? What's behind that? And quarks, parts, and atoms and so forth, and they're still going for it. What's the source? And that's always the question. What is the source of life? What is the source of atoms? What is the source of anything? Often people go to graveyards and color and make rubbings on the gravestones to find out what was the source of that culture in that particular little town. See, if you go down to Trinity Churchyard, you can find dates going way back in historical people. It's a source, it's a bevy, it's a piece of ground that's got the history of New York, at least, surrounding the churchyard. Now, there's two words that are very important to understand. To observe, and out of observation comes participation. I'm dead about writing it down. Observation is first. If you have animals do this, and we, as human beings, our human beingness is a species which is an animal species. It's Homo sapien. The earlier people who called human beings, as you saw in the Quest for Fire, they were observers. Their main thing, that they knew they were different than the other animals because they could make choices. They didn't understand it, but they knew they could make choices. They did not have to do things the same old way, like instinct. Instinct is intelligence, but it's very limited. So they were forced into observing the animals, how one animal protected from a bigger animal, how it was ran, it was fast to survive. It didn't run, it didn't survive. How they protected themselves from fire. That's why they always throw rocks in front of their caves or put bushes up there so the animals would stay out, protecting. They observed. So the human race, first response to its surroundings was as observers. This is pretty fresh. They were observers, and we still are. However, a very big benchmark in the history of the human race is, because there's always a first for everything. The first time anybody could scientifically say we're more than just observers, was those two scientists watching for this big ring of energy banging into each other to see what they're going to find. And they saw some action, and they reacted to it. One said, oh, look at there, this energy is now going in that one solid direction. And the other one said, no, it's going in particles or in dot and dashes. And then they looked at each other and they said, they argued for a while, and then they came to the realization, because they were intelligent men looking as observers, they realized now they both saw the same thing, but they understood it differently from each other. Well, at that moment they realized, cut a long story short, that they now became participators in the atoms crashing together.
Right.
They were not low. So mankind at that place is very important, and it goes on sung in the books of annals of history. That was the one moment when they discovered, scientifically speaking, and that wasn't their mission, but the side effect of it was that they now became, human minds became participators. You have observers, for all these centuries of humanity, of the mind expanding and growing, until it realized, of course, that was the very first benchmark, was when there was a brain that had a mind in it that observed that it was different from the other animals, and that it could participate. It could, because of observation, it could participate. It could say yes or no, and that's the two words that you want to attach to participate. You can always participate in this. We go back to what Jesus said. There is only
yes, no?
Yes or no.
So choice.
You don't mess around with the sidebars. Watch any TV show of the football games. Stadiums are built and rebuilt and enlarged, with moving roofs and air conditioning and everything else, so people can sit there and pay high prices, over $100, to be observers, not participators. I myself, took me a long time to find out I'm really a participator in life. And that's the bottom line. I'm living, because I'm moving, I'm thinking, and I'm participating because I'm watching what's going on, and then I learn it's okay for me to participate, and I can say no. For 60-some years, I could never say no, because I was too busy observing and learning. But when I finally woke up, I realized, no, I can say no. We're observers. It's common sense. You observe the menu, you observe you're getting on the train, you observe the clock, the watch, the whole thing. You observe. And in a way you participate, but it's involuntary. When the 9/11 thing happens, those people were downtown, they ran and watched it on TV. Millions of people were running there, all across the bridges in Brooklyn, jumping in little boats and paddling off to New Jersey. They were forced to participate. They observed something. It was instinct to survive. They saw these big billowy clouds of dust coming on a sunny day. I mean, it's like Armageddon. I'm getting out of here. And so they responded, but they were forced to. But they were those, if you notice in some of those films, which I've seen hours after hours of those films, right afterwards, in a storefront that was selling those tapes, and I went in just because I wanted to get saturated with the event, so they would never deny it. I was in it and saw it. There are people who are actually standing still. They're still observing. And often you see somebody said, well, it's like a deer in a car on the highway. I used to drive through Idaho with no lights except my truck lights through the Air Force. It's instinct. It's observing there's something bright coming, and it stands still. Many people in accidents, when you go to court in an accident, they'll say, well, I was just so terrified I just stood still. I couldn't move. See, catatonic. Catatonic means you can't think. You're actually you're ecstatic. Thank you for the extra. I'm going to use that a lot. The judge and the jury feel sorry for it. It was so overwhelming, I didn't know what to do. So I did nothing but stand still. Now, or they call it a wigged out, or whatever the term you want to use.
Right.
Because you cannot handle it. It's because they were never taught to participate. Now, when I was down with another priest at 9/11, and the second day we were there, because it ran into 2 days, 48 hours, there was a big blast on a horn, and they said the number 5 building was one of those buildings was going to collapse. And we knew it was a very tall building, therefore it would take, when it went to collapse, and even falling over, not down, it would take several blocks for that to fill up. So we ran. Except for some people, my friend a priest stood still because there was a guy from the Brazilian press wanted to interview him. He didn't understand English, or he could care less about the damn horn that said run. Like everybody, you see firemen running with the big tanks in the back, you know something's up. But this guy from that country, he was more concerned about his job of getting an interview than his own safety. There isn't much common sense there.
Right.
So, and my friend, because of his ego, stood still, and I said, Father, come. And he has to run. And he's like telling me to move on, because he wants to, his pride, his ego was, he was being interviewed. So the pride was preventing him from participating in the action. It was going in to save people's lives. Not the building did not fall, and then we all had